All right. So, for the last story from me for tonight is a crazy one. We are going to dig into the infamous serial ender of 30 plus women. Some estimates are at 100. Some are, there's at least 20 confirmed. But who are we talking about? We are talking about Theodore Robert Bundy, okay? Bundy was one of the serial killers that inspired a generation of people, like the Gainesville Ripper. It could be Idaho 4. We don't know, but there's so many details to it, and Ted Bundy was literally the opposite of what we expect to see from serial enders. However, where we start here, it makes sense all the same, okay? So, Theodore Robert Bundy starts on the 24th of November of 1946 to a mother that had him at Elizabeth Lund Home for Unwed Mothers in Burlington, Vermont. And why that is important is because some of the other details that come up in the story here. And so back then, the nuclear family was so important, and anybody that didn't match the nuclear family, didn't fit into the nuclear family of that white picket fence, husband, wife, and 2 kids, you know, they were shunned essentially, right? And his mom had him out of a wedlock and relation. And so what she did to try and get away from some of that was move back in with her parents. And crazy, her parents adopted Ted as a child of their own and told him that his mom was his sister, okay?
Yeah.
And he stayed there for about 4 years, and according to all accounts, his grandfather was abusive, and it created a situation where both his mom and him didn't feel safe there. So that is the beginning of trauma, right? Having someone that you have such a bond to, and then being told that they're your sister, and you're having to deal with an abusive parental figure. So after 4 years, him and his mom move out west, and she ends up marrying, gosh, I didn't write his name down, but Eleanor. They moved out to Tacoma, Washington, and she marries, it'll be on the screen, Bundy, okay? And that's where he gets his Bundy name from, is from him. And they had 4 total kids, and this entire time, you guys, the entire time, he thought that he lived with his sister.
That's nuts.
I know.
That would be so weird to find out your sister's not actually your sister, but your mom.
And so he didn't find any of that out. I mean, all the way up until his 20s. So he believed his mom was his sister all the way through his 20s. He had a whole bunch of brothers and sisters, and they were not a wealthy family. They were just barely getting by. And Bundy was intelligent enough to where that bothered him for some reason, from all accounts. He despised the fact that they didn't have money, and it helped drive him to become what he was. And he never had a close bond with any of his brothers and sisters. So once he graduated, he enrolled in the University of Washington to study Chinese. And he met his dream woman there, okay, at the University of Washington. And he was 20 years old, out of nowhere, okay? And he wanted this woman. He thought that she was the one, okay? Had everything invested into her, and out of nowhere she dumped him and told him because he wasn't ambitious enough. So immediately he already has these problems with his class and how much money they have, and then he gets dumped, being told essentially like, sorry bro, you don't have enough for me, you know? And that bothered him, that irritated him. He ended up dropping out of school, going back to the East Coast on what he calls a mission to find himself. And he finds out he gets his birth certificate, finds out that his sister is not his sister and is his mom, and he's illegitimate. And that bothers him, It's just like one thing after another that ends up bothering him, and he's filled with denial and abandonment and overall just angry about his past and where he came from. So he ends up going back to University of Washington and enrolls in 1969 as a psychology major this time. And he ends up meeting Elizabeth, who is a single mother, and essentially stayed with her through all of this craziness, which is insane. So he had a job at a End Yourself center where he talked to people that were feeling like they could do something like that.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he tried living the normal life. He really did. He worked really hard, graduated, joined the governor's re-election campaign for the Republican governor, and he enrolled in law school and got accepted to Puget Sound, Tacoma Law School. And before his classes started, he took a trip to California, okay? And this is interesting here. So, who was in California? His dream woman. So he took a trip to California in that area and reconnected with her, okay? And had this super passionate relationship in a short time. And, he had everything going for him. He was working with the governor and all this stuff and everything else. And they got engaged really quick. He's still with Elizabeth. And then as the engagement is going on, and this all happens in a super short time, he out of nowhere dumps her. And just leaves. Yeah. He was looking for payback.
Yeah.
He went through all of this just to get payback for dumping him.
Terrifying.
That's like 4 years of dwelling on that. That's insane.
Your shocked hot dog face is great.
I'm just blown away at that kind of commitment. Like, how do you not get over that? That's insane. So, he dumps her out of nowhere, just leaves her like, whatever, I don't want you, you're not good enough for me or whatever. And he goes on his way. And this is really where we start seeing the turning point for him, okay? And I'll go through some of these crimes, just the basis. But for you guys, Bundy's crime spree is 4 short years, okay? We look at somebody like Rex Heuermann, who we just talked about. They have a really extensive long-term crime spree. Bundy's was 4 years, really 3.5 years. And he averaged over 1 victim per month for that short time. So he has over 30 confirmed women that took place in over 7 states from 1974 to 1978. And he was one of the most vicious serial killers ever, you guys, to the point where every other serial killer that's come after him has wanted to be him. So, and what was scary is how charismatic he was, how smart he was, how engaging, how intelligent, how manipulative, how everything. He's like, so many women wanted him because of all these positive traits that he had in him, but he was dedicated to his other personality and his evil self, like all the same. That's what he cared about. So starting in January of 1974, okay, Bundy's first attack that we have confirmation of, there are probably tons more, but he goes to the apartment of a dancer that goes to the University of Washington, student named Karen Sparks, and mercilessly beats her and sexually assaults her with a pole. She is in and out of a coma, and he leaves, okay? She's in and out of a coma for 10 days. Nobody finds her. She ends up being found, and she's alive, but has forever damage. I mean, when he assaults her with a pole, it's permanent damage to her internal organs. So it was horrible. She's lucky to be alive, really. And a month later, okay, not even a month later, Bundy commits his first murder that's provable on paper. And this was a 21-year-old university student again, Linda Ann Healy. He picks her up, and this is all we know, ends her in his Bundy way, which is notoriously bludgeoning, choking, and honestly anything else he could do. At this time, it was bludgeoning and choking, and he took such pleasure and pride in his ending. He would taunt and tease these women, going so far as to intentionally manipulate them and make them think that, you know, he's into them and we're just gonna make out. And then he would lean in and be like, I'm gonna kill you now, and then take control. Like, really, really evil stuff. Yeah, just crazy stuff, dude. After that, he quits law school to become a full-time killer. Crazy, right? Is that not insane?
It must have, like, overtook him like an obsession, an addiction.
Like an addiction, yeah. So, over that time, okay, 8 women went missing in the northwestern area, and the entire area was in a total and complete panic. Now, the 2 that I just gave you are the only 2 that have been legally connected to Bundy, but all of them are believed to be Bundy. Most of these women that were found matched his MO. What he would do is pick them up in his notorious VW Bug and go and dump them somewhere that people saw as pleasant, like lookout areas, makeout areas, hangout areas, and leave them, bury them, return to their bodies, and all kinds of stuff, dude. It was really, 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 really strange. So after these 8 women, his MO changes. All these women were picked up at night. Everything was done undercover, and he gets bold. He gets more brave, and he starts doing this in the daytime now, and he primarily focuses on the daytime. And he has his Bundy MO where he puts his sling on, okay, and his VW Bug, makes it seem like he needs help by these women, strikes up a conversation with them, gets them in his car, and then says stuff like, hey, is it okay if I run an errand real quick before we go, you know, and they're flirting and everything, and he drives them to a remote spot and then takes advantage of them. The next is July 14th, 1974. He actually claims 2 victims in the same day, back to back. And Bundy comes out later saying that he picked them up at the Lake Sammamish State Park, and both of them were alive with him. And he made one watch while he assaulted and ended the other, and then assaulted and ended that first one. He spent time with his victims afterwards, where he would wash their hair and like comb their hair, and total control over their bodies. Really strange, dude, because Bundy, by all accounts, didn't match the serial killer MO, but then when his personality was flipped, did like everything that all serial killers did. Everything. Nothing was enough. Nothing was enough.
Well, I wonder where the hair washing came from.
I have no idea. But August 30th, 1974, he moves to Utah, and he gets reaccepted into the law school in Utah. He leaves his job at the Emergency Services Department in Olympia, Washington, heads Salt Lake City to resume his studies at the University of Utah Law School. Bundy claims his first Utah victim on October 2nd, and she is 16 years old. We didn't know that at first. He ends up admitting to this later. They are never found. Then there's Rhonda Stapley, which has been confirmed to be a Bundy victim. She's one of the few that got away. And she was waiting for the bus after a dentist appointment. He saw her waiting there, agreed to pick her up. She was LDS Mormon, and he said, "Do you mind if I go to?" And this was during the daytime. "Do you mind if I go to go run an errand real quick?" And they drive way off in a remote spot, and this is one of them where he leans in and says, "Hey, I'm gonna kill you now." She tries to leave. He bludgeons her and starts choking her, and knocks her out. The next time she wakes up, she's on a picnic table outside, and Bundy's sitting on her chest. She wakes up saying, "I can't breathe." He then says, "Well, stop struggling and I'll move," and he gives her a little bit of air, just enough to choke her out again, and he makes her pass out over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And one of the times, which it sounds like he was going to find a murder weapon, she comes to and takes off right away, falls into a river that's moving really fast and washes her away from him. So lucky, and she lives.
That's insane.
Yes, but she doesn't say anything for 30 years because she's LDS. And during the Mormon religion of that time in the 70s, they were taught that it's better to lose your life than your virtue. So she doesn't say anything. So November 8th.
Yeah.
1974.
That's horrible. Oh my gosh.
Bundy strikes twice again in one day, okay? Posing as a police officer in Murray, Utah, lures an 18-year-old, and then where he attempts to apply handcuffs before she escapes. Later that day, 17-year-old Deborah Kent disappears after leaving a high school play to pick up her younger brother. Investigators find a key in the school parking lot that fits the handcuffs used on Durant, okay? Then January 12th, the killer surfaces in Colorado. A 23-year-old nurse gets taken, disappears from her hotel in Snowmass, Colorado, and her body is found a few weeks later on the snowbank. October 16th, Highway Patrol Sergeant Bob Hayward stops a tan Volkswagen Beetle. Now, because multiple people have got away, they now have a sketch of him. They now have an identification of his car. This highway patrolman pulls him over and sees a ski mask openly laying on the floor with an ice pick and handcuffs, and thinks it's suspicious and puts him in handcuffs and ends up letting him go because they didn't have enough. They had Bundy in custody and then let him go. October 2nd, 1975, Bundy is finally selected from a police lineup. They put out a sketch of him, and his girlfriend actually calls in and says, "Hey, you need to look into this guy."
The one with the kid, right?
Yep, the one with the kid who stays with him after that.
What?
Yeah, so... October 21st, 1976, Bundy is charged with first-degree murder. They tie him to the 1975 death of Campbell through discovery of her hair in his car. Now, this is Bundy's ego here. He represents himself in this. He is a law student, okay? And there are tons of interviews, and I might even be having one of the videos of Bundy representing himself playing in the background as we're talking through this, just so you guys can get an understanding of how self-centered, manipulative this guy was. It is at a whole other level, you guys, to where so many women wanted him. It was insane, and he was one of the most dangerous people there was. But he knows that if he can get access to the library, he can escape. Bundy escapes. He gets out through a window in the library as he's researching to be his own lawyer, okay? And he gets away, and they pick him up. It's a 6-day full-blown manhunt and rearrest him. On December 30th, 1977, Bundy gets charged with that first-degree murder, but he and he's in jail, and he removes a light fixture, you guys, and slips through the light fixture into apartments above his jail cell and is gone.
What?
Gone. Yes, gone. He exits the empty apartment of a prison worker, changed clothes, and walks out the front door, leaving Colorado behind and winding up in Florida. Okay, now here's his infamous crime on the run, okay? January 15th, 1978, only 16 days after he gets out of the prison cell. He has no control here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not even trying to hide it at this point.
Yeah.
He breaks into FSU's Florida State University Chi Omega sorority house at around 3 a.m. Bundy strangles the life out of Margaret Bowman and Lisa Levy and beats Kathy Kleiner and Karen Chandler with a club-like object before fleeing. He knocked out their teeth. He broke bones. He was overly aggressively forceful and blitz style, biting necks. He bit the buttocks of multiple of them, tore chunks out of them. Like, a lot of times when you hear what Bundy did, I feel like it's not explained how violent it was. He did everything to all of his victims I feel like he makes most other serial killers look tame. Really. Insane, right?
I don't know if I'd say other ones tame, but
Just the aggressiveness, he didn't have a cooldown. It was one after another as fast as he could end people. His reign was 4 years.
yeah, that's insane.
And had more bodies than most. It's insane. He's believed to, some people believe he has over 100, that this 4 years is just what we know about, that he had been doing it for a long time before that.
It's very possible.
He then goes and breaks into another house, and they get a call, and they're like, oh, this must be the same guy. So in the same day after the sorority house, Bundy breaks into another house and ends someone, and they realize it must be him. That's just never tied to him. So a lot of these here are suspected but not tied to him. Now, he takes off.
So how many victims from the sorority house passed?
2.
Okay, and 2 survived?
2 survived, but barely. They can't even describe him. They were beaten to a pulp, dude.
Yeah, they were.
And February 9th, 1978, Bundy strikes one more time, okay? And he only gets one more. 7th grader Kimberly Leach disappears in the middle of the day. A 12-year-old, you guys. Bundy ended 2 12-year-olds at different times, a 16-year-old, 17-year-olds. And on February 15th, 1978, Bundy is apprehended for good. He's driving a stolen car. He's been on the run. A police officer feels like, hey, there's something weird going on with this guy, the way he's driving, the way he's looking, whatever. Pulls him over, and they arrest him. Now, Bundy represents himself again. And this is the first case in American history that is shown on national television. And it's Bundy. And the way
No wonder America has such an obsession with serial killers.
No wonder serial killers have such an obsession with Bundy.
Yeah.
To be the first to have live TV coverage, and not only that, but I will have videos up here of Bundy, just looking at him sitting on the stand. The way he's holding himself is like how you expect to see a really well-trained salesperson. His emotions are so calm, cool, and collect. The way he represents himself is so intelligent. He's joking with the judge back and forth. Like, literally laughing and joking and having a good time representing himself. It is the strangest thing, you guys. If you haven't watched it, you've got to watch it. It is wild to understand the damage that this guy could do and how he represents himself.
I don't think I've actually watched the trial before.
It's insane.
I've seen clips and pictures, but that's it.
It's insane. Absolutely insane. Sitting on the stand, answering, being interviewed while simultaneously objecting to the judge and like, hey, judge, I got to tell you something, you know, and like it's so strange. It is the strangest thing, the level of confidence. And it makes sense why people fell in love with him. I get it. I understand it completely. Once you guys see the video, like, it makes sense. It makes sense. Because if you saw him without knowing all the evil things he did, all the horrible, heinous acts and victims that he left behind him, you would never think that was him.
You would
ever.
just think he's a normal dude and he's really nice and
intelligent and knows what he's talking about and charming and like all the good qualities you expect to see. He probably would have been one of the most insanely successful lawyers that were ever around. Ever, dude. He didn't finish his law degree. And he had the capability to do what he did.
Man, if only he used his powers for good instead
Right.
of evil.
And they almost didn't get him with this. Remember, it was different policing back then, but the officer that was after him finally made a connection, was like, oh, I get how I could prove it. They didn't have DNA back then. He ended up getting a mold of Bundy's teeth, and just the story of him talking about Bundy is really eerie, how he was like, you know, Bundy would mock me. He wouldn't say anything mean, but he would, like, take my name Ken, and he intentionally would drag it out and be like saying things like, oh, you know, I'm not violent, Ken, and just really strange. And he said that voice I still hear it to this day. You know, it's just always mocking. And, I tried to get him to show a reaction one time. And I said, hey, Bundy, I know what your deal is. It's your mother that's causing all this and your background and your father. And he said, Bundy flipped out. And the whole time he ever was around him, he was totally calm. Bundy jumped up, and there was this shower curtain rod that was welded to the wall, and he ripped the weldings out of the shower curtain straight up off the wall, dude. And the pole was free, and it was so serious. So they had a cell welded shut for Bundy so that he couldn't escape again. He had 3 different escapes. Now, when they took Bundy out, this same officer had a brace made just for him where they would not open the door until Bundy's leg brace was on that prevented him from running. And this leg brace, when it was put on and latched into place, it held his legs straight out so it couldn't bend. And you would hear it like whoosh, latch into place. And yeah, the lengths they went to it's just insane.
He was an escape artist.
Yeah.
They couldn't keep him in there.
So ultimately, after the trial and everything, and he was found guilty, January 24th, 1989, Bundy is put to death by electrocution, by the electric chair.
Ooh, that's a brutal way.
That is a brutal way. And what's crazy is he tried to fight off this electric chair nonstop, just nonstop tried to fight it off. And he actually got a stay put on it one time by representing himself again. But it only lasted so long. And it's said that as he was being walked down to the electric chair, he was like trying to throw everything he could to him to try and get them to stop this, and he was yelling names of victims that they didn't even know about yet as he's walking to the electric chair.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yep. Just yelling names that he never gave them. And there's police officer statements that are like, it's real bittersweet because we know there's a ton of cases out there that will never close because he got put to death.
Dang.
Yeah. So, the story of Bundy, if you guys weren't up on Bundy, man, that is why we see serial killers obsess over him. There has never been another like him. The charisma, the confidence to represent himself, the sheer evilness, the blitz-style attack with the manipulation of picking up women and women willingly being wanting to go with him. And then willingly, when he says, they could have got out anywhere along the way. They could have been like, no, I'm not willing to go with you to run an errand, and they could have got out. They could have been free. But the whole time it was, yeah, let's do this. Yeah. And then bam, and he just looked at women like an object to fill a need that he had. And it was awful. It was horrible. And for women out there, I just suggest just don't get in other guys' cars. That would have prevented any of them from becoming a victim. And I'm not victim blaming. I'm just thinking prevention, right?
I mean, a lot of them, but like the sorority girls, I wouldn't have stopped him from that.
That wouldn't have stopped him. But I mean, in the situations where women made decisions to intentionally want to be around him, like I just think of ways to prevent that. And the prevention would be, don't ever get into somebody else's car. That gives them a certain level of power over you that I don't feel like is necessary. You know what I mean?
You need your own way out
always.
The situation.
Yeah, always. Don't ever let a guy drive you from the bar to his house. Don't just follow him there, stuff like that. And that means you always have a way to get out of the house. Like, this is weird, I'm leaving. You know what I mean? But let me know what you guys think. I was super intrigued by this story because I didn't realize the lengths that Bundy went to with representing himself, the successful escapes, and the sheer violent nature of him. I didn't realize he pulled teeth out, did weird things like wash their hair. I didn't realize that he literally bit chunks out of people and things like that. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, I didn't know about the washing hair. I've watched a couple documentaries on him, but I didn't know about that. I did know that he was like, he just kept escaping over and over and over. Mm-hmm. Which is, it's weird how good at all of it he was.
He was good at everything he did.
It's really weird.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, clearly it wasn't smart for him to represent himself.
There was no getting out of it.
Yeah.
There was no getting out of it.
That's true.
He was so obviously guilty. They had eyewitness accounts. They had his car. They had arrests. They had ski masks found. Like, I'm shocked they didn't get him sooner.
Good point.
So.
Yeah, he wasn't careful.
No, not at all. He didn't care at all. But.
You think he wanted to get caught?
I don't know. I have no clue. I don't think he wanted to get caught. I think he wanted to keep killing. I don't think he had any impulse control. I think it makes me wonder if he ever had a head injury, because these are the kind of impulse control problems you see with people that have head injuries. He had some sort of trauma there and a disconnect from human emotion. And then once he got that hunger fed, he wasn't ever able to control the impulse control portion of his brain. He next one. You know what I mean? And it was at a scary rate and level. Terrifying.
Yeah, like maybe he got a head injury. Like, isn't that the part that controls impulse?
Yep,
the front?
something.
I forget what it's called. But yeah, it's a good refresher since we just talked about Danny Rolling and he was heavily inspired by Bundy. And it's very possible that Idaho 4 murders were inspired by Ted Bundy.
Yep,
because it's kind of similar circumstances.
Yep, Bundy used a knife in some of the unproven ones, so yeah.
Well, in Danny Rolling, it's a lot. It's very...
All of them.
Yeah.
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 Let us know what you think.